What's up, guys? Welcome to the Internal Leverage Podcast. I'm your host, Abraham Heisler. And let me ask you a question. Do you find yourself to be a little scattered-brained? Your attention just pulled in multiple different directions? It's impossible not to be with so much distraction that we find in our modern day society. How do we get anything done? Well, in today's episode, I'm going to reveal my ninja tips, my secrets and hacks for increasing your ability to focus, to improve your workflow and your productivity. Check it out. All right, guys, so we're talking about increasing our workflow and productivity. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're an executive CEO, this is super important for you to really perform at your highest potential. To be a high performer, you got to tackle this issue. All right, how do we increase our workflow, our productivity, our ability to produce, to be more effective, be more efficient? It all comes down to focus. What are you focused on? What is the quality of your focus and of your attention? I'm going to give you guys today what I call my two wings of focus. Focus is such a huge topic, a huge, just area for us to really delve into and explore, because in truth, it's in such short supply. I mean, if it was a crypto coin, it would be super expensive, right? It's so rare to have really good quality attention and focus. Just think about how many times you flip up your phone to check social media, how many ads you see in one day, whether it's digital or in print or wherever you are. It's just like there's so much going on. Our focus is pulled in so many different directions. However, let me tell you this, it is possible to increase the quality of our focus, our ability to get stuff done. And it's not even so much about increasing, piling on multiple different ways or strategies for us to be more productive. It's really about getting rid of distractions. So we're going to dive on into it. And I'm going to give you these two wings of focus. Now, this is a high-level training that I'm giving you guys because I have so much love and I just want to share all of this stuff with you. But this is stuff that I've accumulated over the last 20 years studying the mind-body connection, studying neuroscience, and this is some really powerful stuff that I've created. I've put into a sort of system that is easy to remember and also to implement. So let's dive right into it. So the first wing is the 5 pillars of focus. We're going to talk about the 5 pillars of focus, what it means to have focus, how to increase our focus, what are the 5 sort of precepts of that. And then afterwards, I'm going to give you guys what I call the 5 fingers of focus, the 5 fingers of death. It's like the actual tangible things that you can do in order to improve your ability to focus. So you're not going to want to miss this training. You're going to want to listen to this all the way throughout until the end. All right, guys, let's dive into it. So the 5 pillars of focus. What are the 5 pillars? Well, I got a little hand gesture sort of mudra, which is a Sanskrit term for a movement that has meaning to it. And so let me just demonstrate it. So the first one is respect. The next is to protect. Then you want to reflect, reject, and direct. Let me say that one more time. To respect, protect, reflect, reject. I'm sorry, I messed that up, but you get the idea, right? Reflect, reject, direct. So the idea here, let's go through this one by one and let's talk about it. And I'm going to use some examples from my own life as well. We have to respect our focus. We have to respect it. We have to respect how powerful and important focus is. There's a story that Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, everybody knows they're pretty tight buddies. There's a story that they were both being interviewed and asked, what's the number one key to success? And we're talking about 2 of the richest, most successful men on the planet. And they both look up at the same time at the interviewer and they say, focus. Your ability to focus, okay? So we have to respect the power of focus, our ability to focus as human beings. I think a big reason why we do not, or a big reason that we lose on a lot of opportunities, is because we don't respect how powerful focus is, and we take it for granted. But if you think about it like this, you can chop off a person's arm, a person's leg, right? They might not, like, a basketball player might not be able to shoot, or a runner might not be able to run, but they can still focus their attention. This is why taking care of our brain is so important, because you can mutilate me in different ways, as kind of strange as that sounds. But as long as I have my focus, I can do incredible things. I mean, you look at like incredible people in the world, like the Helen Kellers of the world, who didn't have the ability even to communicate the way that most people do, but still they had the power of the mind. And our ability to affect our mind in such a way to create something of value is our ability to focus. You go to any sort of Tony Robbins seminar, personal growth seminar, and the thing that they talk about is that our most valuable and precious resource is not money, it's time, right? Time is the only thing we cannot get back. We can't really get our time back once it's spent. And what is our focus? It's basically how we use that time, what it is that we choose to focus on, right? So it's really so freaking valuable if you think about it like that. I've seen people tally up the amount of weeks they have in their life, and they can see it in front of them just in a number of dots. And it really puts into perspective. Like, our time is limited. Our time is short. So what are you going to do with it? What are you going to focus on? So number one is we have to respect our time. We have to respect our focus. And I'm using time and focus pretty synonymously here. And far too often it's taken for granted. And that's really unfortunate. So let's move on to the next pillar. The first one's respect. The next one is to protect. We have to protect our focus. We have to put up boundaries. You see, there's a great quote from a hip hop song from the 90s. There's a war going on outside no man is safe from. And that war is a war for your focus. You ask any marketer, and what is it that they're looking to get? They're looking to get your attention. That's it. It's a war for attention. You step outside, you step onto your phone, whatever it is, wherever you are, people are battling to get your attention. We have to be able to put up boundaries. And now this is very difficult. And this is really a mindset piece. Number one is respecting your focus, right? That's why it's first. But then number two is being able to put up strong boundaries and to be able to protect it. And a lot of people are unable to do that, which is, again, extremely unfortunate. And we're going to get into, again, some practical ways that you can put up those boundaries. Some of them might be a little uncomfortable, but it's a challenge that I invite you into. The next is that we have to reflect, right? We have to reflect on where are we placing our focus? Are we placing our focus on the things that actually are going to serve our goals, our mission, whether it's business or personal, professional, right? Where am I placing my focus? What am I focused on? There's that saying about, you show me a man's calendar and I'll tell you all about that man, right? I'll tell you all about that person, whether this person is lazy or productive or effective or ineffective. Where are you placing your focus? We need to take time to actually sit back and reflect on whether or not the things that we're focused on, if they are really important. And this is the Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, which basically states that 80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts. And so if we want to grow, if we want to scale, we got to get cognizant of that and really get aware as to where are we placing our focus and our efforts, and how to place more attention on that 20%, right? So that it expands. And we keep doing that. One of my favorite books is a book by a guy named Greg McKeown called Essentialism. I highly recommend you read it. I'm converted to the religion of essentialism, but it talks all about this. And he says in the book that, far too often people focus on the trivial many rather than the essential few. The trivial many tasks, relationships, things that we do in our life, we keep ourselves very busy, but are we really focused on the task that's going to bring us closer to what it is that we're looking to accomplish in our life? And there's not much more really to say, right? I work with a lot of people, entrepreneurs who are so busy doing all the busyness of their work, working on their website, working on this and all of that, but it doesn't actually lead to what it is that is going to bring in sales, it's going to grow their business, the personal connections. And it's like a way to hide. And we can get more into that. We can go deep into that. But just for the sort of the sake of the flow of this episode, I want to keep it moving. But we need to set aside time for us to reflect. And we can't reflect if we don't protect and put up boundaries. That's why it's in a specific order: to respect, protect, and then reflect. Now, the next is to reject. And what I mean by that is when we start reflecting on where we're placing our time, our focus, our attention, we got to actually make decisions. Now, the word decision, decide, in Latin, it means to cut off. Side, like as in homicide or suicide, means to kill. So it's like we're killing off different options. We're cutting branches. We have to, so protection is more of a defense, right? Rejection is more of an offense. We got to actually cut the things in our life that are draining us, that are distracting us. Sometimes relationships, they might be uncomfortable to cut off, right? We have to, basically, it's like if you don't control your focus, then somebody else will. And other people are going to have agendas for you, not necessarily from a malevolent place, right? Somebody can invite you out for dinner and you don't really want to go, but you concede. Again, we have to be active and ardent in rejecting anybody else's focus that doesn't align with our focus, okay? I'm going to say that again. We have to reject anybody else's focus that is placed upon us that doesn't align with what we've discovered in our reflection period is really where we need to be placing our focus. And that's hard for a lot of people. It's very uncomfortable for a lot of people because it requires you to get confrontational. All right, so moving on. Lastly, of course, none of this is important if we don't direct our focus. Now, what I love about the metaphor of the laser beam is that we have all these particles of light that are just bouncing all over the place, ions that are just like, all over the place. But what a laser does is, through this process, it takes those ions and it brings them together to create this really powerful beam. And some lasers, they can shoot all the way to the moon. There's lasers that can cut through things. When we become focused, when we cut out the distraction, when we get clear on what it is that we're wanting to focus on, and we bring all of our attention, our energy, and we focus on this one thing, it's absolutely phenomenal what it is that we can create. But again, we have to make sure that we're placing that focus in the right direction, because we can easily use that laser to cut something that we don't want to cut versus cutting something that, that we do want to cut, right? Something that is going to be effective, which is why that process really makes a lot of sense, right? To respect, protect, reflect on what we want to focus on, reject anything that's not in alignment, and then finally direct it. Make sure that we are sharp, and when we strike hard, all right? A lot more I can say about this. I think what I'll just like to sort of interject here is, I've spent years and years in meditation. I think I've totaled up the amount of hours that I spent in meditation, and it feels weird to say, but I have literally spent more than a year of my life in meditation, working with my mind, seeing my mind wander off and bringing it back to focus on a task. So I have probably a lot more experience than the average person with dealing with my mind, right? Dealing with the mind and really leaning into this place of letting it wander and bringing it back, right? Letting the focus go and then bringing it back. And so this ability to focus, to go into the executive network, which is it's a way that the brain functions, in which we're extremely focused, versus the default mode network, which is where our thoughts are just kind of wandering. And there's a time and place for both of that, but that ability to eliminate distraction and really focus on the one thing, that one task that is going to be powerful, is really the key to success, is really the key to life, and I believe is what Bill Gates and Warren Buffett were alluding to when they said that, the key to their success has been focus. Okay, guys, so now what I want to do is I want to dive into what I call the 5 fingers of focus. All right, so these are the actual things that you can do. It's the fingers, right? It's like what you can actually do in order to create more focus in your life, in your routines, in your workflow. Now, before we get into it, just a quick warning. it's very simple, but not necessarily easy. All right. Some of this might require some sacrifices. Some of this might be a little challenging because we're so used to being in a certain way. And, I don't know, maybe some people take offense to this. I don't think so, but I believe we live in an ADD society. I believe that, everybody, like compared to a human being from 500, 1,000 years ago, every single human being who lives in modern day society is ADD. Our prefrontal cortex is overstimulated and we're just like working overtime. And I think I read somewhere, I can't remember the statistic, I got to find it, but I think it's like the average, human being nowadays in an advanced civilization. I mean, some people live in the mountains and woods and they live off the grid, but most people have as much stimulation in one day that a person from, like 1,000 years ago would have in a lifetime. I can't remember the exact ratio, but something like that. So naturally, it's so important now more than ever that we really have tools to bring ourselves back to a place of clarity, a place of focus, and be disciplined about it. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to really, truly achieve what we want to achieve. And since a lot of us are coming from a place where our minds have been wandering and distracted, this is going to take work. All right. I don't want to like bullshit anybody here, right? This actually does take work. So let's hop on into it. All right. And the way I've numbered these kind of correspond, they in some way sync up with the 5 pillars of focus, but they also correspond to, like, the numbers correspond to, to like the actions that you have to take in a way. It'll be clear in a second. All right. So number 1, you guys ready? 5 fingers of focus. Let's go. All right. Number 1, turn off your notifications. Turn them off. Get rid of them. Turn them off. Like, I don't even know why they're still on in the first place. All right. Only notification you should leave on is the Internal Leverage podcast whenever we release a new episode. But other than that, turn off all your notifications, like all of it. You should be going out and seeking information rather than information seeking you. Like, this is like, I mean, if you get anything from this, just do that one thing and it's going to change your life. Like, it really will change your life. I've done this for, I don't know how long, a while now. So it's almost inconceivable that other people have their notifications on. Now, there might be emergencies, or like if you're working with a team and you got to have your Slack notification on, fine, but do so within a certain period. I've been turning off my phone at nighttime, putting it on airplane mode for, I think, a good 10 years now. I could be wrong about that, but you want to turn off access to you. This guy, Sam Ovens, he's a marketer. I like to follow him. He's like, why would you want to have, give people access to you, right? You want to, as you get busier, as your value goes up because you're providing more value, you're working on more valuable things, you want to limit the access to you because your focus becomes more precious. Again, it's like a crypto coin, right? It becomes more precious and you want to protect it. So he has this funny thing. My wife and I joke about it all the time. He says, if you put your phone number on your business card, that tells me that you're poor, right? Because you have time for everybody. So you really want to limit access to you. And that's not just for people. That's for software. Like, why, like a person, okay, I can understand, like, you would let somebody have access to you, a person have access to you, but why would you let software disrupt your flow, right? Why would you let, like, some app on your phone, like Candy Crush, disrupt your ability to focus? It's insane to me. So turn off your notifications. And if you need to have 1 or 2 on, you definitely don't need to have all of them on, but if you need to have 1 or 2 on, give boundaries. Put specific times when those notifications are on. All right, so that's number 1. Number 2, blinders. So you see what I mean? Number 1, turn off notifications. That's just one thing to, like, just turn it off. Boom, done, right? Airplane mode, done. Blinders, those are 2, right? Number 2. Maybe I'm getting too cute with this, but Put blinders on. This is what we're talking about with protecting yourself. So number one, respect your attention. Turn off the notification. Number two, protect by putting those blinders on. Now, what this reminds me of is when I go into Whole Foods, I better have like an hour or two because I get lost in Whole Foods. And I enjoy getting lost in Whole Foods, right? I will meander up and down the aisles. I don't even pay attention to my list. I just sort of grab whatever looks nice to me. It's fun. I like to do that, right? So my wife knows if I'm going to Whole Foods, I need like at least an hour or two, right? However, there was one time where I really needed to use the toilet. Like I really had to go. And I ran into Whole Foods because it was the closest toilet I saw, nearby. And I beeline for that toilet. And it was fascinating to me because I must have passed like, I don't know how many different flavors of kombucha, how many different food, like health food bars and chips and whatnot, that on a normal basis, I would have been like shiny object just trying to grab. But because I had urgency, right, I took 10 seconds and I was in the bathroom. And I thought about that. And I was like, wow, that's really life, isn't it? Right? When you select a goal and you develop and create that urgency around the goal, you got to beeline towards that goal and put those blinders on. I mean, there's so much candy out here. There's so many different flavors of kombucha and food bars in life and in business. It's like, of course we have shiny object syndrome. So we have to put those blinders on. We have to protect ourselves. We have to put up those boundaries in order to truly accomplish what we want to accomplish and accomplish it in an expedient manner. All right? All right, so that's number two. Number three, now it starts to get a little more challenging. It's like we're kind of increasing. We're turning up the flame here. It's getting a little bit more challenging, all right? Only have 3 tabs open on your browser at any time. And if you're on the computer, this is the rule of threes. If you're on your computer, only have 3 applications open. Now, why do I do this? Studies have shown, and actually I want to pause for a second. If you're listening to this, if you're watching or listening and you're on your computer, like just look at your Chrome or look at your Mozilla or whatever you use, Safari, and just look at how many tabs you have open. If you have like 10, 20 tabs open on your computer, most likely you have those tabs open in your brain, in your mind, all right? And when you have all these tabs open, it creates, just like on a computer, it slows down your computer. When you have all the apps open, it slows down your computer. This is the same thing that's happening in your brain. We only have so much processing ability in our prefrontal cortex, right? And that's our RAM. So we have to free up space in order to think clearly, in order to be more effective and more efficient. And there's a direct correlation. I mean, of course, if it's happening in your computer, it's happening in your mind. But even just looking at it and like having these tabs open, because when you open a tab in your computer, there's a little signal that's going on in your mind and saying, oh, there's this thing, and then there's that thing, and you're scattered. You're all over the place. So I always, and sometimes you got to extend it, but I keep reminding myself, close out any tabs that I don't need, bring it back to 3. You don't really need more than 3 tabs open at any given time. Think about it. Like you really don't actually, right? You really, really don't. Try it and let me know. Like leave me a message, let me know. Same thing with applications. Like, do you really need all those apps open at the same time? No. So, for me, it's 3 tabs. It's the rule of threes. For you, maybe it's 4. Maybe it's 5. But try 3. See how you go. If you need to bump it up to 4, no big deal. But give yourself a number of tabs that you'll have open, apps that you'll have open at any given time, and stick to that. All right, let's keep it going. Now, number 4 is the Pareto's principle that we spoke about before, this idea of the 80-20 rule. Now, we can't focus all of our focus all of the time. All right, it's impossible. It's just not how the mind is built. So we really want to create a dynamic where we're super focused. And when we're focused, we're boundaried. And we're only focusing on that one thing. But when we're relaxing, again, it's that executive mode network versus the default mode network. When we're relaxing, we're really relaxing and giving ourselves the space, right? Giving our body the ability to adjust, giving our brain the ability to relinquish control and just sort of float. I mean, just think about sleep, for instance. We're active throughout most of our day, but we need sleep in order to repair, to recover, to, go through that process of neuroplasticity, which is where the brain actually creates these new networks, okay? These new neural networks, right? Neural pathways. So it's the same thing with the 80-20. When I'm working, I like to use the Pomodoro method. Now, the Pomodoro method is this idea where you focus for a set amount of time, could be like 25 minutes, and then every 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, right? Could be longer, could be shorter, but the idea being is that you do more or less 80% focused, boundaried, nobody's interrupting, no apps, no nothing, no notifications, and you're in that sucker, right? Like really working. But then when it's time to take a break, you take a walk, you breathe, you stand up, you drink some water, you can do some yoga, you can do some breathing exercises. I like to switch it up. Sometimes I'll take a break and I'll do some push-ups, or sometimes I'll do some breathing exercises, or I'll meditate for 5 minutes, right? Whatever it is, but just take a break. Give yourself some time to recover, and then you can come back a lot stronger, a lot more focused. And it's just a way to work that's so much more structured and helps, rather than just sort of like being all over the place and being pulled in this direction and that direction. I didn't talk about this, but I probably could have led with it, that interruption culture, which is a real term, you could look it up, interruption culture, which happens so much in the workplace, so much, with like notifications and checking email, it's devastating. Like, they've actually mapped out the cost that it has on various industries, because it takes so much longer for somebody to complete a task, because every time you're interrupted, not only is it taking away from you accomplishing that task, but shifting your focus back to the task, you lose on average, for every slight interruption, you lose I think 8 minutes or something. That's insane. That's a lot, right? So instead of really, falling victim to the constantly being interrupted, we want to be boundaried and clear and intentional, but then give ourselves that time. So when I'm focused on this Pomodoro method, and if a call comes in or something or whatever, like my wife needs me, I'll say, I got 15 minutes left. I got 5 minutes left. Of course, if it's an emergency, it's an emergency. But if it's just like, oh, hey, what was the number for that? Whatever that is, or like something that's going to take longer than 30 seconds. Don't even. Just be boundaried, right? And be very clear. Communicate with everybody. Say, for these next 25 minutes, I'm focused. I'm in my music. I'm doing my binaural beats, whatever it is. And then I'll be with you in a short amount of time. Okay, so that's the 80-20 rule. That's number 4. Now, the final finger, this is really the fifth finger of death. This equals death to many, many people. This is something that I even struggle with to implement a lot, all the time, but I adhere to it as much as possible. Only have 5 apps on your phone. You're killing me, Abe. You had me until you said that. I know, that's that's instant death. 5 apps on the phone. What do you, it's insane. But I cannot tell you how powerful it is. Why? Okay, your phone is the one device that's with you all the time. It even goes into the bathroom with you and has seen you in ways that you will let nobody else see you. It's always with you. So let me ask you, how would you like to have, somebody with you who's always talking, right? Who's talking about the weather, and then talking about sports, and then talking about stocks, and then talking about Candy Crush, and then talking about what so-and-so posts. It's just shut up already, all right? You got to protect yourself. Again, this comes back to the whole protect, respect thing. Is you got to protect yourself and be, and just know that if the app is on the phone, I'm just gonna get lost in it. It's too easy, right? Out of sight, out of mind. And the reverse is true. If it's insight, you're engaged in it. So the only way to really protect yourself with your phone is to limit yourself to the apps that are most important. So for me, I try to keep it to only 5 apps. Now there's apps that I can't delete that come with the phone, but there's 5 apps of my choosing. So I'll have an app, so that my wife can communicate with me, like a WhatsApp. I'll have my organizer, Trello, which I absolutely love. You can use whatever you want, but I like Trello just because I'm able to, like, if I have an idea, if I have something that comes to mind, I just drop it I just open I don't even have to go into the app. I have a widget where I just enter it into the widget, like, oh, call so-and-so, or do this one thing, or how about a training or a podcast episode on this? So boom. And then later on, I can come back to it and organize those thoughts, right? Those brain dumps. So it's great because it just gets it off mine. I have a couple of other apps that I use pretty frequently, but anytime I start to get over that, like I have too many apps on my phone, I delete them. I get rid of them. Now, I will say I do have an iPad, and I have all the apps that I'll ever need on that iPad, but the iPad doesn't come with me everywhere I go. So it's safe. Of course, the notifications are turned off on that iPad. If I need something, I go to it rather than it coming to me. All right, so let's summarize these. I'm very curious to hear. I'd love to hear from you guys. Is this helpful? Because I'm always refining this. Is this something that you're able to implement in your life and in your business? And if so, what results are you getting? So let's review the 5 fingers. Number 1, turn off all notifications and put your phone in airplane mode at night. Number 2 is put blinders on. And when you're focused on something, only focus on that one thing. And I forgot to give a really important example of how you would use number 2. Let's say, for instance, you go on your computer because you have to check an email. Only check that email. Like, don't get lost. Like, let me ask you a question. I have to come back to this, right? Because I didn't say this. How many times have you gone to check an email, and then an hour later you've ordered like 3 things on Amazon, watched 10 YouTube videos, liked 3 cat photos on Instagram? Like, you just get lost. So the whole point of putting blinders on and being clear on what your intention is, so be intentional, in other words, is that you just save so much time. If I go on and I check an email, I'm only checking that email. I don't care if like other people send me emails. I'm going to come back to that at another point. And again, there's times where I don't follow this and I have to remind myself. So more than anything, these are reminders. So number 1, turn your notifications off. Number 2, put on your blinders and be intentional. Number 3, limit the amount of tabs that you have open to 3. And the same thing goes for apps running or programs running on your computer. Number 4, employ the 80-20 rule with your focus. So 80% focused, 20% defocused. Okay? And number 5, limit the apps on your phone to only 5 at a time. All right, guys, let me know how this is. Let me know how this works out for you. Super important. All this information, we have to get a handle on our focus, how we utilize our focus. If not, for lack of a better word, we're screwed. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you next time.